Hey, what is up guys? It's Brendan here, and today we're going to be covering how to track mileage for business, work, and for taxes. So in this video, you're going to learn exactly what is the mileage deduction, what that looks like, and how you can save money and get those reimbursements for work or for your small business, and how to manage that mileage tracking. Again, mileage is an important part of many different jobs, industries, and businesses, and it makes sense that the IRS will give you a deduction, or your work will reimburse you for those miles that are driven for work and for business purposes. That's essentially what it is. And so this is a way that you can then earn that deduction and save some money, whether you're again getting that money back as a reimbursement from your employer, or you are the employer yourself, and as a self-employed individual, you're making sure that you're then taking that deduction when you go to file your tax return. So that's what we're going to be covering here in today's video: how to track it, exactly how it all works, and what that looks like. And before we dive into things, of course, I do want to mention, if you do want to check out any of the different mileage tracking companies that we do mention here in this video, you can go and check out those first links down below in the description box below. Of course, some of which are affiliate links, which is a great way to help out and support the channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into things. So, of course, the IRS does issue a standard mileage rate. Now, this mileage rate does vary year to year, so depending on when you're watching this video, currently, at the time of making this video, it is 67 cents a mile, up from 1.5 cents from the prior year. And again, that is subject to change. It probably will change because on an annual basis, they do research to conduct and make sure that, hey, these are the appropriate mileage rates for approximately what things cost. Again, as you can see here, the standard mileage rate for business use is based on an annual study of the fixed and variable costs of operating an automobile. Again, that is the cost of doing business. They do also have separate rates for medical and moving purposes based on variable costs. There is also a separate mileage rate as well for charitable use. So we'll be covering a little bit of that here in this video as well. If you are maybe needing to track mileage for other uses, as well, because there are different mileage rates for different uses. Again, primarily most of you guys watching this video probably are looking to either get that reimbursement or you're looking to save money on your taxes. Again, no matter which situation you're in, again, there's different softwares and different ways to do it that might make the most sense for you. But just give you an overall baseline. Another thing to understand as well from the IRS, again, is this is conducted, these rates apply to electric, hybrid electric automobiles, as well as gasoline and diesel powered vehicles. This is just the standard mileage rate based across all of the overall, cost of operating a vehicle for business, right? 67 cents a mile. Again, depending on when you're watching this video, it might be higher or lower, depending on what their annual study looks like. So another thing to understand, so just as you get a quick idea as far as how much that reimbursement or deduction could be worth, let's just say this year you drove 1,000 miles for business at 67 cents a mile. I mean, that's $670 back in your pocket. Back in your pocket. I mean, you're essentially spending that on the cost of operating your vehicle. Again, if maybe you did this use for medical use, you can track it obviously per mile is a little bit less. Charitable use or military moving. Again, when you're filing your taxes, those things will be calculated as well. Again, most of you guys using it for business. Now, how do you actually go about tracking it, and what are some other things to understand? So before we dive into actual tracking apps that I personally recommend, again, I do have another video I will also link to where I go in depth on a whole host of other softwares as well that you can use to track your mileage. Again, just gonna be doing a brief overview of a few of my favorites in this video. If you do want to check that out, there will be a link down below in the description to that other video as well. So for another aspect of mileage reimbursement, mileage tracking to keep in mind as well, when you're going to go about, tracking those deductions or reimbursements and how to actually go about calculating that, is you also want to consider, again, this is according to driver's note here, is that does mileage reimbursement include gas? So yes, the mileage reimbursement does include the cost of gas. So you cannot add your gas expense if you're using the standard mileage rate. That is something to consider. So you can't count gas anymore. That's already factored into the overall deduction cost. Tolls are a separate expense that you would just log and keep a receipt of. So tolls are, obviously an expense for doing business. So just make sure you keep track of that. Again, and how much you'll be reimbursed. Again, it depends on the current year and what the IRS provides you. Again, if you are doing this for work as well, employers, again, as you can see here, are not obliged to use that rate. And they may provide a higher or lower rate per mile for mileage reimbursement. From my experience, a lot of places would just use that 67 cents per mile because that's currently what the IRS uses. But it just depends on the company and employer. They may want to go higher or lower using a custom rate. So it just depends on your situation. So those are things to keep in mind when you're looking at understanding overall mileage reimbursement and tracking your miles for business. Now, again, this is an excellent deduction and reimbursement. So how do you actually go about tracking it, right? There's a multitude of different ways. Again, one way you could do is just inside your vehicle, you take a little log of exactly where you went, and you can keep a spreadsheet and do it all manually and take a look at your odometer, write it down, and then calculate how many miles you drove. But in the age of technology, that is extremely manual and very, very time consuming. And I get that it doesn't really make sense for most people. So there are some apps and different software out there that you can use to aid in this process. Now, I'm going to be going through a couple different ones here in today's video. The first one we're looking at here is Zoho Expense. Now, Zoho Expense is a travel and expense management software specifically for businesses. So if you're doing this for work, there might be other options out there that are better. Again, if you do want to learn more about other options as well, I will leave a link to that video down below in the description. But Zoho Expense can be a good option. They do have a free version as well that includes the mileage tracking. They are primarily a travel and expense management software. So maybe if you are just yourself, you can do the mileage expenses tracked for free. That's why I recommend Zoho Expense. They're because they have a free version that includes mileage tracking, which is why I'm mentioning them first in this video here today, which is pretty nice. And they do also have the whole other host of Zoho software if you're interested in maybe some of the other software. Not going to be getting into that too much in this video here today, but they do have a free version. Zoho Expense, again, can be a good option for tracking your mileage. As you can see here, we can go over to mileage tracking as well. Again, they do have that free version. They do also have like more premium versions that have like free trials and things, but they do have that actual completely free version. So you can track your mileage, and as you can see here, you can track it, based on mile, kilometer, what the category is, and adding specific vehicles as well. You can type in a custom mileage rate and just see like, hey, distance traveled, and as you can see here, you can see all of your mileage that's tracked automatically, via your GPS. You can see the total distance and get a total logbook that gives you the specifics all labeled out in your app here. So again, that's Zoho Expense. Moving along, next we have FreshBooks. Now, FreshBooks is actually an accounting software. This is primarily for if you are maybe a small business owner. So if you're in the case of where you're looking to get those deductions and maybe you want to track your overall expenses within your business, I figured I would mention FreshBooks because, again, they are an accounting software, but they do include a free mileage tracker app built into all different plans of the software. So if you're looking for accounting software as well, then FreshBooks can be a great option because they do also include an automatic mileage tracker app built into the accounting software. So I get a lot of you guys who are maybe watching this video, you are small business owners. This can be a great way to do it. But if you aren't a small business owner, the next software we're going to be mentioning is meant for just everyday regular people as well that are just looking to get reimbursements for business travel. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But FreshBooks, again, as you can see here, this is what the app looks like. You get your mileage. You can track things for business as well as personal. So if you are maybe using your own vehicle for work travel, you could also split that out and differentiate between business and personal. Which is nice. You can have your, unreviewed drives, reviewed drives, and it's all included in the software there for your accounting software. So it does make sense if you need accounting software anyway. Then you can file and manage, all of your business expenses, including the automatic mileage tracking. And those mileage expenses can be logged here within FreshBooks as well. Taking a look, next on this list, we have MileIQ. Now, I have covered them in a completely separate video going over all the pros and cons and like specifics of MileIQ, but they are built for both individuals, teams, whether you're self-employed or you're looking for, again, tax deductions or just reimbursements. So if you're maybe a salesperson, you're driving for work, but you're using your own personal vehicle to do some of the driving, and maybe you don't have that, maybe you have to track it in order to get those reimbursements based on the way that your work is going to pay you out for that business driving, then MileIQ can be a good option for that, of course. Now, they do have a free version up to a certain amount of drives. Now, in terms of the pricing, they give you 40 free drives every month. So if you're not driving that often, it can make a lot of sense just to use MileIQ. I mean, and even if you are driving a lot, at $4.99 a month or even $5.99 a month, depending on if you're billing yearly or monthly, still pretty cheap as well. If you're just looking to simplify your life and have everything automatically tracked, it can make reporting a lot easier for you. Again, if your regulations are kind of strict and you need to make sure that you're, whether you're doing it for your own taxes or for work, it can make the reporting process a lot easier instead of having to do things manually. It just depends on what you're looking for. But again, you have that automatic mileage tracking up to 40 free drives every month. Now, it will include little stops. So I will say, a lot of these softwares as well, depending on how your driving is and how many frequent stops you're going to be making during your work travel, that might eat up those 40 free drives very quickly. So that is something worth keeping in mind, at least with using like a free software like MileIQ. There are also other free softwares out there as well. Again, I'll leave a link to the other video where I go into more different softwares to look at. But MileIQ sort of hits the baseline there for people who maybe just are wanting to get those reimbursements. Maybe you don't need it for business, but again, if you need it for business, MileIQ can still be a good option as well if you don't necessarily need the whole host of accounting software like something with like FreshBooks. If you don't necessarily need to pay for the accounting software, it might make sense just to track the mileage expenses through something like MileIQ if you already sort of have your accounting taken care of, or you're not necessarily need all of that out of a software. Again, they can still help you, when you're filing your taxes or getting those reimbursements. You can save money and, separate things, personal or business driving. And that's how you do it. It's a very easy way to go about tracking your miles for work. As you can see here, it's just, boom, worth a certain amount of money for each drive that you do, and everything's already classified. Again, you can separate between business and personal, and you can, set up all your reports as well. You can also set, custom mileage rates as well. So, certain work hours, different vehicles, locations. That's one thing that's nice is you can set things up between, home and office, or if you are going to be driving quite consistently for work, then you can set up certain locations, and it does make classifying a lot easier because it'll automatically track, hey, if you're driving, from one office to another office, it'll automatically keep that just purely as business use or just as personal use if you're just going from your house to the grocery store or something like that, right? So that's a good way to separate things out. Now, in terms of other software, accounting software that does include mileage tracking, there is also QuickBooks is a very popular accounting software. They do also have mileage tracking, so I figured I would mention them here in this video. Maybe you are already using QuickBooks for your accounting. They do also have mileage tracking. Again, if you are a small business owner, that's where like the accounting software and the mileage tracking can make sense. If you're not a small business owner, then you could try to use just Zoho Expense just to track your miles in their free version, or you could go with something like MileIQ, which is very simple and easy to use as well to track your miles. Again, QuickBooks does also, the nice thing about using an accounting software for mileage tracking is that then it is already in your accounting software. So it does make sense if you are a small business owner. Again, you can get those more detailed mileage reports for your potential deductions. Again, things like MileIQ also have that. It really just depends on if you care about having an accounting software or not. Again, on your personal situation. Again, if you are just driving for work, then just the reimbursements make sense. So you could just track your miles for free, even with MileIQ. as well. Again, up to that certain amount of drive. So again, it depends on, which software might be best for you in your situation. But that's pretty much the best way to do it. There's quite a bit of different mileage tracking apps out here nowadays. Again, it's up to you to decide, are you a small business owner? Are you someone who is just driving for work? How often? To compare and contrast the different softwares. A lot of them are going to do the job just fine in terms of tracking your miles and getting those logged in there. And again, it's also important to consider, what that expense is worth. Again, comparing, that's quite a bit of money if you're driving a lot for work, to make sure you're getting those reimbursements or those deductions, and just how to go about, classifying your mileage as well for work. Again, this is from driver's note here for the IRS mileage. And so, yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video here today. Again, if you are interested in checking out any of the softwares and mileage tracking apps mentioned here in today's video, we'll leave a link down below in the description box. Again, some of which are affiliate links, which is a great way to help out and support the channel. Again, if you guys have found this video helpful or enjoyed it, then be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. But anyway, guys, that was all for today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.